Good morning. It has been way too long since I was here last. I can't believe how many years have gone by. But this church has supported us for so many years. You've prayed for us. You have supported us faithfully. We do love you. And it's great to see new faces and to see faces that I'm not going to say old faces. The faces that we know and love, and it's great. Great to be here. We love you. Thank you, brother, for getting me back. Glad to be here. It's the bond that we have is in the gospel, isn't it? It's in the Lord. When I was 16, my pastor took a couple of us to visit the mission field of Mexico, 1970. And when I made that trip, I knew that was God's calling for my life. And so by 1977, Janet and I were on deputation to go to Mexico. In 1978, we had moved to Mexico City. And it's amazing to think that looking back from 16 to here I am at 71 and still involved preaching the gospel in Mexico. I praise Him for that. I thank Him for that. And I want to show you some of how things have evolved in our ministry in Mexico and how the Lord has added new things into that. Is it going to be any darker in here?
Any darker?
Yeah. I don't know.
The front lights.
Yeah.
There you go.
Okay. Well, this is just a picture of me in the pulpit, right down on the border in Nuevo Progreso, preaching the Word of God. And the Lord has just opened this door all these years and praised Him for it. And much of the effort in ministry has been working with men from the very beginning. And it still is today. But that is actually increasing. So here it was the church in Nuevo Progreso, right on the border. First Baptist Church there, strong Sovereign Grace Church, and the brother that I work with. And just think of ones that I've worked with through the years. The next picture, I look back at ones that we began with. Here's Brother Mateo Toribio. He's a Chinanteco Indian down in Oaxaca, down in the jungles in southern Mexico. And he and I were in our 20s together when we were trekking through the trails, going village to village, preaching the gospel, me preaching in Spanish and him preaching in Chinantec. In fact, that was a big story. When you first go to language school, you think, oh, I need to learn Spanish, so I don't need to preach with an interpreter anymore. And as soon as I got out of language school, we went to Chiapas where everyone speaks Celtal. And so I would preach in Spanish with a Celtal interpreter. And the ministry all along has been with interpreters. Here's Mateo. It's shocking to look and think we were in our 20s together, and that he and I have both changed. But the next picture here is Brother Jose Manuel. Again, a shocking picture for me because we were in our 20s preaching the gospel together. But he's out in Progreso, Veracruz, a different part of the country, and he's the right-hand man of a pastor. These are men that we were mentoring and teaching back in the 70s and early 80s, and they're still serving the Lord and still preaching the gospel. Here is, go ahead next, the most recent one that I was working closely with is Brother Eduardo's wife, Micaela, and their daughter, Lluvias de Gracia is her name, and Showers of Blessing, that's her name, and they're still faithfully serving the Lord. Witness right there in Cárdenas, San Luis Potosí. And so I'm just looking at men through the years that I've worked with in Mexico, and it encourages me to see them still there preaching and teaching and witnessing for the Lord. Next picture. Here is the church in Nuevo Progreso. We've worked with Brother Tomas Olvera very closely, and this is just across the border. You can walk there when you cross the border from Progreso, Texas to Nuevo Progreso, Mexico. It's just a couple of blocks, and a faithful group meeting there. And he has grown in the Lord, preaching the Word, and from there going to many areas of Mexico. Next picture is men who came in for this study. And so that's Brother Tomas on the left, and spent so much time in mentoring him, and then now see him bringing other men in that he is mentoring and teaching. And so here's men from different areas of the country of Mexico. And from the right end, the second and third one there, those men are fellow elders with Brother Tomas in the church there in Nuevo Progreso. This is fellowship dinner is always a big deal, right? So you recognize the picture. That was at that same meeting, just a fellowship dinner we were having there together. Brother Tomas is going out to several different areas of Mexico. He's going down into southern Mexico. This is in Tuxtepec, the congregation that is gathering there, that he's making regular trips down, starting this new church. And the man who's leading that is Brother Omar. His wife, Julia, has cancer, but in remission, but pray for them and this growing church. Then they're going down Matias Romero and starting a new church there. You know how, if you can picture how Mexico goes down and narrows and then comes back up, on that little narrow part right in the center of that is where Matias Romero is, where they're starting this new congregation right there. Very hot tropical country right here. And then Brother Tomas was the first man that I took with me when I went and began in Torreon. Brother John, I forget what year it was, took me to Torreon and said, here's these men who want to learn. And so we began going to Torreon and having training for new preachers there. It was not mentoring established pastors, but new men who were hoping that one day that they could be in the ministry. There on the left is Brother David, that I guess several of you probably know him. Brother Adrian on the right and Tomas in the center. They're still been working together, and him mentoring them and them mentoring others. And so they, I started out teaching them there, and then they invited other men in, and then they invited other men in after that. And now they have a large group that meets monthly for training pastors. They have theology modules that they have set up. And so to see how God is going from generation to generation is such a joy for me to see. And you remember Brother Francisco there on the right. Recognize him, brother? Now you do, since I call his name. Yeah, well, he's helping out in the training there in Torreon also. He comes in once in a while to help out and still faithful in Cuauhtemoc, I believe, yeah. And just recently we were able to go back to Mexico City. Two men that were close friends to me early on in the ministry were Brother Paul Brown and Brother Larry Jones. Does the church here know Larry? No? Well, you know Larry. They were both men very influential in my life and ministry early on. And both of those men have gone home to be with the Lord. And Susan Brown asked me to come help. So Brother Paul's widow invited me to come to Thailand. And Carol Jones, Larry's widow, asked us to come and help out in Mexico City. So this was just a one-time trip. But here's a recent trip we made to Mexico City to help out. And they have a children's home in that ministry that Brother Larry helped in establishing. This is Brother Henry, who is one of the people in that children's home. He's kind of old, you think, but the Lord put him there with special need. He's from Venezuela, and you've read in the news of Maduro and the political situation in Venezuela. And he's, a brutal dictator. And here's a man who can give you a testimony of the brutality. His mother was killed. His sister was killed by Maduro thugs, and so now he's in a secure place in Mexico, and we thank the Lord for that. And here's Janet as we were there. This was a big deal for us, actually, to go back to Mexico City. Our first home in Mexico was in Mexico City, and then to be able to go back. That was just a special delight. The Lord has given us time to meet other men in different places. This was one back last year during the summer. This is Brother Juan Batz. He is a a Quiche Indian in Guatemala. And so it's building some bridges for new pastors who have not been taught and they're wanting to learn. And so to be an influence in helping this brother, here's a picture of him and his family. This is, they're Quiche Indians. And if you look at his wife and two daughters, you see the native dress. That's everyday dress that they have. And there's his wife in the kitchen. You can see the huipil, the dress that they use for everyday dressing, clothing. This is not fancy dress-up clothing. So there she's making tortillas for us. Quiche Indians. And you know, you can look at me and realize I'm 5'6". Well, here's Brother Francisco's mother and father from Mexico. He's from, or I know him from Oklahoma City, and he sent me back down there to meet his family. So they're the Quiche Indians in Guatemala, and this was the group when we were meeting in special services for that trip. Now let me share with you some about how things have developed in Thailand for us. You know, the Lord called Brother Paul home, dear brother in the Lord, and then there were some needs that were pending and that needed attention pretty quickly. And so I was called upon to go and help take care of some of those needs. And so we flew to Thailand. And just the interesting thing about this picture is you can see the plane down at the bottom, which is at Minneapolis is where that's at. And you think, well, if you're going to Thailand, you're flying west, right? Well, a straight line to Thailand from Minneapolis is right up across Canada and over Alaska and along the edge of the Arctic Ocean and then over Russia and China. So that was a straight flight to get to Incheon, Seoul, Korea, our next stop along the way. And I debated whether I should put these pictures in here, but I know there's several of you who know Brother Paul Brown, love him, and this, I think, will be meaningful for you. But the Lord called him home, and so the first day we were there, we went out to the cemetery, and this is at Brother Paul's gravesite. So this is the headstone at Brother Paul's gravesite there in Chiang Mai, Thailand. If you go around Thailand, everyone knows that it's not a Christian country, it's a Buddhist country. And so you see even more Buddhist shrines there than you see churches here. And they're everywhere you look. And some of them are very ornate and designed, you know, and from ignorant eyes, you don't know how to interpret everything you're seeing. It looks kind of pretty, but some of it not so much. But you see the different kinds of Buddhas there. And like this shrine here, and this, it is an idol. They'll go there and pray. And this is up on a mountaintop. In fact, I can't begin to, guessing. That may be 60 foot tall, and it's on top of a mountain. So this is something that you can see from miles and miles around. And that's the sort of thing that you see all over Thailand. And then I don't know how to interpret what's religious and what's just cultural, but that's the sort of things that you see all over the country. And then the prayer before the Buddhas and before the idols and burning candles. And I don't know how to understand that, because in Buddhism, you don't actually worship God. You don't have a God that you're praying to or a God that you're earning merit to come to. And yet all of this is for merit and it's prayer. And so who are they praying to and who are they trying to earn their merit for? It's all a contradiction that it's not understandable to me. So all of northern Thailand is where Brother Paul was working, and the churches are where the pastors are living and serving. This is mountainous, very rugged country. Boy, when you're driving, it's just hard curves up and down constantly. So this is looking across the mountains and valleys there. And then you park as close as you can and you walk to get to these little village churches that they have. The Lord has blessed and gathered together a group of Lahu Christian people that have been saved by the Lord's grace. There's Brother Keith Brown there in the picture, and they were going to, I forget the name of this first church that we're in, but here they were gathered, and this was at Thanksgiving, which during their fall Thanksgiving season, every church on a different day will have special Thanksgiving services, and they've got all of the other churches and all the other pastors that come, and they usually have really nice congregations. And then that was the first Saturday we're there, and then the first Sunday I preached at Bonshaw Church over in a different town. You can see the church building, and I asked Brother Wichai there if someone had built these buildings for them or financed them, and he said that they had done that themselves. And here I am with the pastor there at the church in Bonshaw. They're often are seated, men on one side and women on another side. So this was in the Thanksgiving service there in Bonshaw. You can see the ladies on the right side, see the native dress of the Thai women there, which is everyday dress again. And then it's always special music, emphasis, lots and lots of special music. And then here I am preaching with an interpreter once again in Lahu. The man who is interpreting for me is from Myanmar or Burma, and he's a Lahu Indian, and these are all Lahu that you see there. And down in front you can see all the fruits and vegetables and flowers. This is the Thanksgiving service, so they bring all that in for the fellowship dinner and to share with other believers. And this is the pastors who came for that particular Thanksgiving service. And of course, Thanksgiving service, fellowship dinner. So here's food prep, a little bit different than your food prep, but there's most of the ladies working on I don't know what all. I never knew everything that went into the food. But then go ahead to the next one, and here's the men doing their part in the food prep. Machetes, cutting up meat on banana leaves on the ground. And so here we are gathering in the meal area. And there's our table and bowls of stew and meat wrapped up in banana leaves and rice in the bags. So this was a special treat for that day. And then after we left, of course, it was still Thanksgiving season, so the men are still going out to other churches and holding more and more Thanksgiving services there. And they bring things to share and send back to other churches. And they likewise would bring clothes to give out to children at the Thanksgiving service, as well as bringing bags of simple medicines to give out for things that they don't have available in the villages. One of those pending things was that we had to do urgently in Thailand was organization of a church right there. Brother Paul had been very involved in going out to all of the village churches, and so he had people living there and working together with him, but they would just go out with him on Sundays to all these different places. So they never had actually organized a church right there in Chiang Mai. And now they were not going to be traveling with him every Sunday, and so there was need for the church to organize. There's Sister Susan Brown, the blue dress, there toward the center of the picture. On the left end is Wichai, the next is Moses, and then the girl there next to Susan, young lady, is Mali, and then Jay, and then Sibat there in the picture. These were the charter members for the organization of the church there in Mai. And this was in the organization service. I was asking different questions, and they were responding. You know, if your answer is yes, you're ready to covenant today, and you agree with the confession of faith and different things. And so here they are reading their church covenant as they join together and Susan doesn't look like she's reading. That's because they're reading in Lahu. And so she's looking at an English version of it, and they're reading audibly in the Lahu. And there, I think this was at the end where they were actually voting. All right, next service, are you ready for me for us to ordain pastor and missionary elder out of the church? And so that was the yes vote for that. So this was at the organization charge where I was preaching. There's Brother Ephraim, who is from Myanmar, Burma. And this is a man who understands English extremely well and a really good interpreter. And so we're a really good team. I mean, he was easy to work with translation, and the Lord blessed us both in that first service for the organization of the church and then the ordination of the pastors in the second service. I just stuck this one here out of chronological order, but the next Sunday after the church was organized, Brother Wee Chai baptized his first new convert there. That's his half-sister, actually, Jana, that he baptized that next Sunday. And this is in one of their typical Sunday services. A lot of the children from the children's home are present there. Adults were sitting off to the right, and not too many of them are visible there. But this was a meeting at the Grace and Peace Baptist Church in Mai, and that's Brother Moses there leading in prayer at that picture. Now, this was the second service where we had the ordination. Brother Wee Chai came in as a young boy into the children's home with Paul and Susan many years ago, and he was raised in the children's home, and then the Lord called him to preach when Brother Paul was gone. In fact, they just jumped in. When Brother Paul passed away, they just jumped in and began working. And they said, this work has got to go on, and we're not going to let it shut down. And he jumped in, and he began pastoring that group, even though no one had said, you need to do this, and everyone's heart was united. This is the man to be our pastor, and he felt that was his calling. So this is our ordination service for him, and here's Moses, also raised up, and that's not actually their name. They give them an English name usually, or Wee Chai is not English, but Moses' English name, or Hebrew name, is it? But he is in the church. He is an assistant to Wee Chai, as well as evangelist, going out to try to start up new work in new villages, as well as establish churches and encouraging pastors. And I just stuck that in there because this is Amen in Thailand. When you would expect an Amen here, or everyone to join in and say Amen, this is what you get. And it's a blessing because you can see the enthusiasm there. And here the men are when we're going to pray for them in the ordination service. And I'm there on the left, and Keith on the right, and Wee Chai and Moses at the ordination. And here we had about, I forget that day, we had 20 some odd pastors who were there ready to participate in the ordination service for these two men. They all came in and said, we're going to be here Sunday. The church at home will continue, but this is priority. And so there they were. And we met with them in a special meeting also because they were very much desirous to see the work continue on of training pastors. And so they wanted to know how I could help them. And so we had a special meeting on Saturday and met with these men. They could ask all the questions they wanted. There's Ephraim again translating as I'm answering questions and giving them a short message that day. There they are. You can see the group that was together with us. Because they're wanting to go on, and they're not ready to let any of that slide. So we set up, made arrangements. We found some brothers who were there in Thailand teaching pastors, and so we set up for them to come in and for 6 or 8 months to have training sessions. Now we're getting close to the end of where they're going to be able to help us. So we need to pray, how can we continue this? And we're going to need help from some pastors traveling over. Maybe we might recruit you, brother. But going, someone each month there for pastor training. And the brother on the left, he's Idacom, who's translating for this. He was Brother Paul's right-hand man, translation and help out in a lot of ways, Idacom. And one day, Brother Paul had written me, and he wrote out the name, and it didn't look anything like Idacom at all. And I spoke back to Brother Paul, and I said, you need to tell him he has a really good Baptist name. He said, what do you mean? I said, well, when you're reading it, with English-speaking eyes, it says, Idunkum. Tell him he has a good Baptist name, Idunkum. Yeah. So he's a faithful brother, but he's having some serious heart trouble right now. So pray for Brother Idacom. And that's Brother Nico. He was from South Africa, and his wife is from George West, believe it or not. But he's from South Africa. So here's preachers training and the men who come in from all over North Thailand to gather for the training there. And here they are in a group picture outside. One project that I've working on is, I need to be training pastors and helping out in different ways that I can. And so one is writing and sending Bible studies. I'm taking sermons that Brother Paul had preached before he left to go to the mission field and getting those edited and prepared and sending them over. And then my own Bible studies and sending them over. So you can see my name at the bottom of the page, but you see the Lahu writing there in the title at the top of the page. So we're translating Bible studies into Lahu and getting those in print to give to pastors. That's one way we're working to continue teaching and encouraging them. Now let me show you some pictures of the children's home. This is a big part of the ministry. It's not the main part of the ministry. Of course, preaching the gospel and training pastors and all of that is the primary focus, but then a lot of time is spent here with the children. They now have 18 children and young people that are in the children's home, and Susan right there in the center with them. And this is out in the field out beside where you can see the whole group. Some of you have read Susan's reports, right, for years. And you remember her talking about Molly from the time that she was a young girl and what a handful she was, and raising her and pointing her to the Lord and so forth. There she is standing to the right of Susan Brown, and she's house mother in the children's home now. And God has just done a wonderful work of grace. And then to Molly's right, our left, is Moses, her husband, and Timmy, their baby. Here's a picture of the girls who are in the children's home now. Then a picture of the guys in the children's home. And here's the workers. Susan, who teaches English and helps corral and corral the kids and coordinate things. And then the lady in the red t-shirt, the guy in the green, that's the cook and the maintenance people. And then Wichai and Moses and Mali there, who are coordinating all of the work of the children's home. Here they are. I have this picture here, which is a lot like the other one, but you see they have this large field. They have several acres there. I forget exactly the size, but if you turn around and look the direction that they're looking in this picture, the other direction, and I'll sweep across the scene there. Out to one end, you can see this small building, which is just a room and a bathroom that the maintenance couple live in. And then as you go on around to the left, there's a carport out there, and then the main building where the girls' dorm is upstairs, and then classrooms and office space downstairs. And that building on the part on the left where the sloped roof is the dining area. So you can see the dining area there. And then off to the left is Susan Brown's living space, her house. And then there's some chicken pens out there. And then there's a water tower and pumps and so forth. Then there's the guys' restrooms. And then the left end is the men's dormitory. And we chai is down there. Then again, here is a picture of me with Ephraim. And I want to talk to you a little bit about his ministry also. He is from Burma, or Myanmar, we call it nowadays, but Adoniram Judson was there and it was always Burma, right? He was there to translate for us, and then we drove him back up to the northern border of Thailand and for him to cross back into Myanmar. So there's Ephraim and his wife on the right end, and Brother Keith Brown, and now on the other end is one of the brethren from Myanmar. And this was a picture taken from a high viewpoint where we could see right behind where we were standing, there is that small river. There's the river that divides between Thailand on one side and Myanmar, or Burma, on the right side. And Brother Ephraim he's a blessing. He is an encouragement. One of the things that he has done is there where he lives in his village. The country is in civil war, right? And there's masses of children who are just wandering the jungles. They've lost their parents, they've lost their family, they have no home. And these are all children that he's gone out and he's just brought in from the jungles that were wandering lost. And so they're living in his home and he's taking care of them. Then besides that, he and Brother Jeremy have set up a Bible school there. And these are young people from the churches in Myanmar that they work with, and as well as from the village or two around them. And these are all serious students of the Word of God. They've come in here and they actually have, we'll call it dorm space. I mean, it's a very humble, simple place to live, but they live on campus. They study, I believe, 5 hours a day. They don't have any electricity at night. They have generators for a couple of hours for electricity. But they're studying theology, they're studying Bible, they're studying church function, and so that they can all leave and then go, and they're very serious about this. Here's their graduation service, and this is just basically out in the jungle area, but this is, they have their course over 3 years of study, and then after that, they are going out to the churches in Myanmar. They're out teaching, encouraging, helping, and going out to new villages for evangelistic labors. Here's a bunch of the young guys out of the Bible Institute going out with Ephraim on an evangelistic trip. So there they all are on their motor scooters on the jungle trails, and he even has sent me videos of them when it's raining, just downpour of rain, and they're going up the mountain pushing their motorcycles in the rain and mud to get to that village where they're going to go preach. And here they are where they've just put up some tarps for a place to sit and have their meeting, invite the villagers to come in. There's morning and here's the night, and you can see they've got bamboo mats that they're sitting on the floor, but going out into, these are Lahu villages where all of these are, and all of this is new evangelistic work where they're just going out from the Bible school there. And Ephraim is the primary teacher. There's a few others, but they are spreading. And see, Brother Paul visited them. Brother Paul taught them. I guess it was on a monthly basis. He actually taught some of the classes in this Bible school. And he taught these men like Ephraim. And so they're continuing to teach what they have been taught. And there's a makeshift baptistry out for baptism in one of those evangelistic locations where they're just starting up new work. So here the kids are at the Bible school. He told me that they have 63, I believe it is, full-time students this year and 36 new first-year students. And there's the simple construction they have where they have classrooms and dorms for the students. Just a couple more things to show you and point out to you. I do have, besides things like this, I put sermons on sermon audio, and this was for the month of August. And, I don't have any celebrity preachers. Brother Andres is on there. I'm on there. Tomas and David, a couple of others, and here we had 438 plays in the month of August. And we have around 400 sermons of Brother Andres Galaviz on there. And every single day he's got people listening to his sermons. How many did I say today already? 4. He already had this morning when I checked early before church. He already had 4 plays on Brother Andres' sermons today. And then here's a picture of the web page. So I have players on the left side, and then we're doing articles for pastors to study. riquezadegracia.com if someone wants to look at that page. So God has placed me in a position of helping pastors. I'm still working in Oklahoma City, trying to work with the immigrant population right now with the political environment and immigrants being deported and so forth. There's a lot of fear, there's a lot of distrust, and it's hard to establish good relationships. I mean, the Lord put them here in His providence, and if they're here, I'm going to preach the gospel to them. And the Lord has sheep there that need to be reached with the gospel, and so I'm going to love them every opportunity we have and preach to them. But right now in this environment, it's very hard. So pray for the outreach to the immigrant population, and then beyond that, contact with pastors in Mexico, with pastors in Thailand, one even in Guatemala, and trying to mentor these men, teach them further. Sometimes buying resources and sending them to these countries where they have no access to books and help and so forth. So that's the big thing right now, is working with men. I'm limited in what I can do. I look at what's going to have the most lasting effect, and I believe it is mentoring men that God has called and seeing them like we've seen in those pictures there, teaching others after I've been there teaching them, and I just rejoice in that. So pray as we continue. We're not through yet. We believe the Lord has great things yet. It's 10:40. Any questions?